Hi, my name is Anna, and this is the second of 3 video tutorials that will give you instruction for how to use Web 2.0 tools in your classroom in authentic ways. This web tutorial will take a look at the learning management system of Google Classroom. Google Classroom is a learning management tool that can be used by teachers to seamlessly integrate Google Docs, Google Drive, and Gmail to create assignments, provide feedback for in-progress and completed work, and communicate with their students directly and with whole class announcements, all without using a single piece of paper. I'm going to show you just a brief glimpse at how to use this as a learning management system for your own educational system. So to get started, the fastest way to get there is to go to google.com and type the word classroom. It's the first link that appears, and it will bring you to this screen. When you're ready to go forward, you'll click Go to Classroom. Now, since I'm already a user of Classroom, it will automatically take me to my setup Classroom. But for your purposes, it will take you to a screen that will ask you one of the following. Are you a teacher or are you a student? Now, the only way you can use Google Classroom is if your school is currently using a Google domain. It is only open for educators at this point. It does not just work for a regular Gmail account. Now, I know this is an exceptional thing to think about, but a lot of schools are moving towards Google domains, and so this is a great learning management system that you can use. So let's take a look at how it works. When you enter Google Classroom, your platform will actually be blank, but you're going to notice that I'm currently using this platform with 3 of the classes that I'm teaching in my schedule as a high school teacher. I have each class set up, and it lets me know the number of students that are in the class. This one was done as a test, so currently there are no students in it. Let's talk about what the home screen entails. First, off to the right-hand side, you'll notice my domain for my school, abarksdale@sau73.org. Right next to that is a little plus. If you click on that plus, you're going to notice 2 options. Since we're looking at the teacher perspective of this, we're going to focus on the Create a Class. But your students, when they access Classroom through their domain name, they will actually join a class. And we're going to talk about in a little bit how that works. But this feature is important to remember for after creating your classroom, how do students join? They will see a home screen that looks exactly like this. The difference for them is, instead of creating their class, they'll join it. The other feature I'd like to talk about on the home screen are these 3 little bars over here on the left-hand side. If you click these 3 little bars, you're going to notice a bunch of things down the side. When I'm in one of my classes, if I need to get to another, these 3 bars help me get there faster than having to go back to the home screen. I can also see something called archived classes. If you don't want classes to appear on this home screen, you can actually archive them. By selecting these 3 little dots, you can archive a class so it does not appear on the screen, but you still can access it later if you happen to teach the class at another point. When you click these 3 little bars, once again, you're going to notice something called settings. You can go in here and change your profile picture, change your Google account settings, have it send email notifications, etc. So let's go back to the home screen. The other point Alright, so let's talk about how to set up a class. What you're going to do is click back on that plus mark that I was talking about earlier and click Create Class. Now, for the purpose of this, I'm just going to call it Test Class. I know it's not very exciting, but it works for what we're doing. The other thing I'd like you to notice is section. As a high school history teacher, I will sometimes have multiple sections of a class. I would recommend that you actually create a different class for each of the sections, even if you have multiple sections. So for our test class, I'm going to call it Block 1. The reason that this works is, even if it's the same class, if you have all of them turn in their assignments to one class, it will become confusing. It'll make sense in a second. So let's talk a little bit about what we see up here. You're going to notice this beautiful picture. You can actually change the theme or upload a photo, If you select a theme, Google actually updates these every month, and it has some cool options that you can choose from. Let's say, for instance, you're teaching a science class. You can choose the beakers accordingly, and then say select class theme. Or you can upload a photo as you would want. So, the first thing I would do is recommend is actually taking the tour that Google takes you on. So if we click Select Tour, it'll actually show you some of the features that I'm going to talk about. In this classroom stream, you have the ability to post announcements and assignments. In order to get students to join, you can actually have them join 2 ways. One, you give them this special code. So if you go think back to the home screen that I was talking about earlier, when they click on the plus to join class, it's going to ask them for a code. this is the code that they would enter. Each class stream has a distinct code that is different from any others. So no one can be a part of your classroom unless they enter the code or unless they're personally invited by you. You also, as mentioned, the second way to get students to join is to invite them. So if you click on the Students tab, you'll have the ability to invite students. Now, because this is connected to my actual student domain, I'm not able to click the invite button due for confidentiality reasons of seeing the first and last name of students in my school. But if you click this invite button and your school has a directory set up with a Gmail system or an SAU system, you will be able to select student's name and invite them accordingly. For younger grades, I would recommend having them enter the code, as it might be easier for them to be able to do it that way. Alright, the other tab that I'd like to talk about is the About tab. Now this is a tab that is a permanent tab for your class, where when we come to the stream, I'll talk about why the About tab might be something useful for your class. So once again, we'll call this test class, class description. This class will learn stuff. Obviously, it will apply to whatever you're teaching. I'm a history teacher, so I might put American history. This class will focus on the Great Depression through the Vietnam War. Whatever your room number is, make sure your teacher email is accessible. And this is your Drive folder. You don't touch this. Just leave it as is and let it be. You can also add materials. Now, when we come down to the streaming feature, what we're going to find is the streaming feature pushes down your announcements, with the most current being at the top. This About page never changes. As a high school teacher, I have class expectation sheets, syllabi that I want students to be able to see all the time. So I might put expectation sheet and have a link from my Google. If I click on Google Drive, I can grab the Drive document accordingly. So if I go to Google Drive, I click on my social studies folder, I go to my US history class, miscellaneous, and there's my expectation sheet. I can then add that expectation sheet and post it as in a public forum. So when students click on the About tab, they can actually access the expectation sheet. It will always be there and it won't push it down the stream, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Alright, so once your About page is done, as mentioned, this is a class. I just deleted it a second ago, that's why I'm having to redo it. And then you click Save. And lesson learned, I should have clicked Save before I added my expectation sheet. If for any reason you don't want this expectation sheet, you can click Delete, and it will delete so that it no longer appears in your stream. If you need to edit your About information, you click on these three little dots and click Edit. Alright, so let's go back to the stream. This is known as your class stream, and as mentioned, as you add stuff, it will be pushed further and further down the screen. So if you were to add your expectation sheet the first day of class, as the semester or as the term goes on, it will push it further and further down. If you want students to be able to see it all the time, that's why I would recommend putting it in the About page. There are two things you can do in your stream. First, create an announcement. So to create an announcement, you click on the word announcement, and this is where you literally just can put an announcement. So watch this video for homework. You can attach a file, a Google Drive doc, a YouTube video since this is a Google platform, or a link to an article that you'd like the class to watch. You can also, if it's like I mentioned earlier, have multiple sections of the same class, you can check all the classes that it applies to before you click Post. Once you're done, you click Post, and then that announcement will appear for students to see. You'll notice the comment feature. Very quickly, I would add that as a high school teacher, I actually have comment expectations that my students are aware of. They know they must adhere to when they're in this format. Even though this is a closed classroom environment, they understand that they have certain requirements as a professional student of how they should comment in this platform. For any reason I needed to edit or delete, I once again could click these three dots and edit and delete accordingly. And that's the announcement feature. I'd like to focus the remainder of this discussion on what's called the assignment feature. If I click the word assignment, I type in what the assignment will be, World War II worksheet, description, whatever it may apply to. It could be the directions, what they need to do, etc. The due date, if you click on the date, you can actually choose the date that it will be due. You can add a time if you'd like it by the end of a block, or if you're giving the students till the end of the day. You can attach a file. In this case, I'm going to attach a document from my Drive. So if I go into Drive and into the according folder, I am able to select the documents that apply. If I hold down the control button, I can actually select multiple documents if this is a multi-document assignment, and then click Add Accordingly. You can add videos and links just as before, and once again, if this assignment is for more than one class, this is a cool feature where you can check all those that apply. There are 3 options that you have for an assignment. 1, students get a view only, which means they can only read the document and have no edit rights. This second option probably will be one that you never choose unless it's a collaborative assignment. If you choose this as an option, it means that all students will access the same document and can all edit it at the same time. This can get a bit chaotic. So what you actually want to choose is make a copy for each student, and it literally creates a copy that they can access and then edit. Anytime they edit it in their own classroom stream, it will automatically save the work that they have done. So next time they go into Classroom, they can actually click on the assignment, and it will take them to their assignment and allow them to edit. So if you click on the assignment, you'll notice that it opens up the actual document. Pretty cool. Alright, so back in Google Classroom, when you're done filling what you need to fill, you click Assign, and it will actually pop up in your stream. You'll notice that what I was talking about earlier, this announcement has now been pushed down. So as you add more stuff, it will continue being pushed down. There are 2 things that I want to draw your attention to. You'll notice that it lets you know how many students are done and how many are not done. So if we were to go over to the 3 bars and click on one of my classes, you'll actually see an example in one of my classes. I gave a Cold War prompt back in February. There are 10 students in my Foundations class. When I gave the assignment, you'll notice that 8 turned it in and 2 did not. When I click on the 8, it will actually list all of the students who did the assignment, and it will provide me with the copy of their turned in assignment. I will click on the 2 done, and it will show me who didn't do it. This actually happens in real time, so it allows me to stay on top of who was doing the work and who is not. For confidentiality purposes, I'm not able to click on the numbers, but back in our test class, if I click on the number, you'll notice that it gives me a list of all the students. A list of students would actually appear right here. I can provide comments, I can give a grade, I can return it, I can email it. It allows me to talk to the students in real time. If a student turns something in, they are not able to change anything on the assignment until I've returned it to them. If they realize they've turned it in with a mistake, there is an unsubmit button that appears in their own classroom that allows them to unsubmit it and turn it back in. What I get, though, is a real-time time indicator of when they turned it in, when they unsubmitted it, that I can click on so I know how often they've looked at the document. If I go back to the other screen, I can also click on Not Done, and I can add comments and say, hey Johnny, you haven't turned in your assignment. So that's a really cool feature that really changes the way you give assignments. You no longer need to access Google Drive in the way that you did in the past by having students share a document with you and then trying to go and find it. Instead, everything you're doing is done through Google Classroom. So you will break students of the habit of even accessing Drive in the way that they did before. They literally will go to Classroom, they will click on this document, and it will take them to their particular copy. Alright, I'd like to take you back to the home page and just give you a brief conclusion to what we've discussed today. We've learned about how to create a test class, how to create an announcement, an assignment. What you're going to notice is the very last feature. When a student logs into their own platform, they will actually see upcoming assignments that they need to work on. They can click on this assignment directly and it will take them to that assignment, and then they can then access their document. It's the last feature that makes this a really, really amazing platform. Well, I hope that I've piqued your interest in wanting to use Google Classroom as a learning management system for your own classroom experiences. After watching this tutorial, I would encourage that you go to YouTube and watch some of the other tutorials Google has on this particular Web 2.0 tool.